Hello, I am Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO. And as always, I'm grateful that you've joined us for another episode of the podcast where week after week I interview the most amazing people who share their insights with you and hopefully inspire you. And I do this work, I partner with these individuals. I want to make sure that those C-suite leaders, entrepreneurs, business leaders out there can navigate their challenges with confidence. And this week, I am honored to share the mic with Nancy Zare, PhD, who is also the LinkedIn Whisperer, is the creator of the AlikeAbility sales system. Renowned for her focus on buyers, she shows professional business owners how to generate warm, organic leads on LinkedIn and turn them into clients. She's earned her master's and doctorate degree from Boston College and authored 7 books, including an Amazon and international bestseller, a resident of South Florida, a student of spirituality, and volunteers for the Farm Dog Rescue and the Immerman Angels. Nancy, it's my pleasure to welcome you onto the show.
It's my pleasure to be here talking with you and our audience.
So thank you so much. So, audience, people listening out there, why did I bring Nancy onto this show? Well, she came across my network by introduction. Shout out to Hirsch Reffin, who has been working with me on my brand to make sure that I communicate and elevate my business and service to others. And I also was seeking opportunities to evolve my sales processes. So, again, that I can connect with the people that I value and also value what I do. Well, she has been the plug and play solution for me to be able to reach the people that I want to connect with. And that's why I wanted to bring her onto the show because she has just a unique way of approaching the sales process or the rapport process that could be very valuable for those leaders who have taken the decision to go into their own business. But I know that there's going to be lessons learned by anybody out there, even the CEO. So, Nancy, I am going to pass the mic over to you to share a bit about yourself.
I will start off by saying that I never intended to be a salesperson. And maybe some of the people who are listening feel the same way. I backdoored into selling. My graduate studies were paid for by the government. I'm a psychologist, PhD. I went to Boston College and I was fortunate enough to be granted full tuition plus stipend by the government in order to implement mental health services in the workplace. This was an excellent combination for who I am and what I wanted to do. It wasn't until I graduated, Deb, that I discovered you cannot implement a program until it's sold. Hence, I found myself selling. And many people who get advanced educational degrees in particular subject areas, or maybe the CEO who's listening is thinking to him or herself, down the road, I intend to be in business for myself. Well, there I was, not necessarily in business for myself. I actually was hired by a hospital to sell these services to the community, business community, and I knew nothing about selling. So I went back to school, not to get a degree, to the library. What could I learn from the masters of sales? And this is where I came across the platinum rule. You know the golden rule, am I right?
I can't quote it right now. Please help
Okay,
me.
it's treating others the way I want to be treated, right? The Platinum Rule, by the way, it's by Tony Alessandro. He has a book by that name. It's treating others the way they want to be treated. It makes all the difference in the world. And when I put that into operation, along with my knowledge of personality styles, I quadrupled sales in 90 days. This is what launched me to go ahead and create a program like this, the likability system.
Yeah, it's an incredible backstory, and it's very interesting to me, of course, because I'm a professional. I've got a great product or service to offer, and when I was in a corporate space, I always had the work in front of me. And when I had to hang my shingle, yes, I did a little bit of networking. I was fortunate to get some business, but it wasn't sustainable business, and I realized that I did not have the skills for sales or some other way to be able to bring people and be able to offer value.
Yes, and that's the position that most people find themselves when they start a business. And they were not trained to do marketing and sales. In fact, they may even have an aversion to doing marketing and selling. And hence, that's why they may find themselves looking to go back to the corporate world where somebody else is, like you say, presenting the work and it's there in front of you. But for those of us who persist and really get pleasure from this activity, it behooves us to figure out how to generate leads, do so without being pushy, aggressive, and salesy, and actually bring in new business again that is in alignment with our values.
So, a quick sidestep to my audience. Again, Nancy has come into my ecosystem for a good reason. And this may be a message to anybody in a corporate role thinking to start their own business, or I do talk to the CEOs out there. I was at a place in my career where, I knew my product and service was good. I just rebranded it, um, putting out all kinds of marketing material, validation. Yes, you've got a viable product here. But I had the courage or sensibility to say, something's not right. Something doesn't feel right. I'm not broken, but what I'm doing now is not getting me the results. And so leaders have to reflect every so often to say, what's not working? What is working? What is valuable, so you got to acknowledge that, but what's not working. And I knew something was not quite right in my sales process. And so we've had some conversation, we've made some adjustments, and I'm seeing the fruits of my efforts and hope and believe that we are going to have more meaningful relationships with people that I can serve. And it doesn't feel salesy.
And you said the magic phrase, meaningful relationships, because that's what sales should be. Unfortunately, many people think of sales as a transaction, and they approach selling with a transactional mindset. And hence they get all nervous or flustered or maybe driven, to make the sale, and they forget about the relationship because it's all about serving others in a way that is ethical and supports and solves the issues that they have.
So I want to also respond to this a little bit because when I started, again, reading, listening to podcasts, reading books, interviewing people, a lot of the gurus say, you know, help them along, pull them along the sales funnel, get them into your funnel, make sure that you have a next date on the calendar. And that's what you need to do. You need to hustle. You need to talk to a lot of people. It's a lot of hustle. It's exhausting, and it obviously wasn't getting the result. So, I mean, what do you say to that type of sales versus? I mean, it's just wrong. What's your reaction? I'm sad that a lot of entrepreneurs follow that advice and may or may not see the results.
Well, and that's exactly what I faced when I graduated, got hired by the hospital to go ahead and sell, mental health services in the workplace. And I thought I was supposed to hustle, like you said, and I was supposed to grab at every possibility and twist arms. But I didn't like that. It's not in alignment with who I am and what I'm about, which is the reason why I eventually said uncle or aunt, and I went to the library, to study the successful salespeople. And when I look at people like Zig Ziglar, and that name may ring a bell, or, there are many others, Brian Tracy, I could go on and on. These men, primarily, there are a few women every now and again, but these men were not trying to manipulate people into buying things. They were good listeners. They asked excellent questions, and they worked on and built meaningful relationships. They connected with people authentically, and they didn't just try to make a sale. I don't like that word convince when it's used with selling. I think it's the wrong attitude and the wrong point of view. To me, it's about serving others. I looked up that word sell in the dictionary and I found a definition: to influence. And this is the definition I personally like because you and I, and listener, you're doing it every day. We influence people to take action. Now, whether they take that action or not, obviously, we're not able to make that happen all the time. But by asking good questions, listening to people, encouraging them, etc., we can influence them to take action in their best interest.
But I would prefer to inspire, to take
There you
action.
go. I love that. That's even more beautiful than the word influence. But we are selling. All of us sell constantly because we are talking to employees, we're talking to colleagues, we're talking to spouses and partners, talking to children, and we're trying to influence these people in various ways.
We can go into your deeper into your systems, and I also want to understand some of the challenges that entrepreneurs have. But we are going to take a break in here, and I'm going to come back to Nancy because, again, we're in the business of building relationships, and I want to shine a light a little bit on you personally. And I find your your volunteer work is special, and I would love for you to share a little bit of some of the work that you do, because again, that may create a connection with people who are listening.
So, there are two volunteer activities that are foremost right now. One is the Farm Dog Rescue. It's a no-kill shelter. There is no physical shelter. People like myself are the shelter. We foster dogs. And so we can only take in as many dogs as there are fosters, or the fosters willing to have more than one dog. I have so far I've seen and taken in 36 animals. The last one left a week ago, and I'm expecting one tomorrow or the next day, which I enjoy it. And I will candidly admit, I thought about fostering as a way to find the dog. And since that time, I've realized that I am doing a blessing for three different parties. One, the family that surrendered the animal because there were obviously circumstances that were troubling enough for them to let the pet go. The second is the dog. Many of these dogs come to me, they unfortunately are not house trained, they not socialized, maybe they've been neglected or abused. So I socialize them, and I train them to be better pets. And then the third group that gets a blessing is the family that gets this beautiful pet who's ready to go and be loved by a new home.
I'm starting to tear up here. It's beautiful the work that you do. And again, I know that this is somewhat of a business or leadership conversation, but because of this and a few other conversations I'm having lately, I think we need to weave in a little bit of humanity and some of the work that we do to better serve people or animals, because that too is how we connect and
Yeah,
build rapport.
yeah.
So thank you for that.
And the Immerman Angels, I want to mention that especially because I'm sure there are people out there who have had a cancer diagnosis or have been a caretaker with someone who has been diagnosed with cancer. It is not a medical intervention. It is a person-to-person intervention in which people who've had cancer or been caretakers, we talk to those who are in that situation. So we're not trained as counselors. We're just simply one person to another so that you know you're not alone.
That is so important because any change of general nature or critical nature, unless you have a support system that could understand you, it's a very lonely place to be. Again, another blessing to be able to support people, directly or indirectly during challenging times. Beautiful work, and thank you. But we're going to come back to the impactful work that you do. So, talk to me a little bit. Let's frame this up a little bit. When you think of the entrepreneur that is hanging the shingle, they feel so proud of the work that they're doing. Um, but what are their challenges to be able to build that sustainable business? Let's just kind of start with the problem that you provide a solution to.
So if you are trying to elevate yourself, there are three pieces to the puzzle. The first is visibility. Because just because you've emerged from your corporate leadership position and you've got X years behind you of experience and you have built a reputation does not guarantee that anybody knows that you're now doing consulting work or anything else. And hence you are invisible. So that first step is to create visibility. Some of it is you go back to the people you've already known and you announce that what you're doing. But nah, you got to go even beyond that, because an announcement isn't enough. You actually have to now develop that relationship in a new direction by identifying what you're doing and who you're doing it for, so that that group can support you and know how to help you. So visibility is step one. You can also create visibility using social media. There are many platforms where you can post information. Being a podcaster, I mean, you're creating visibility for yourself by doing that. Writing books, having video. There are many tools, but that's the first step: create visibility. Step number two is credibility. Now, credibility happens over time. It's not something that can be bestowed on you right away. And for those of us who have a master's degree or a doctorate, or again, X years in a corporate environment, that does not automatically confer credibility on you. So credibility comes with you having that visibility and consistently showing up and letting people know what's cooking inside your mind. Hence, you're gonna have to put out some sort of resources, like a podcast, a video, a book, an article, posts on social media, etc., in order for people to begin to not only see you, but know what you do. And if you're very good at that second step of credibility, you now can move towards what's called profitability. And that's where people will actually sign up and enroll to receive your services. And you may want to consider giving away what you want to get paid for initially, so that you can gather testimonials and references, because despite your reputation in the corporate environment, it doesn't translate as immediately as an entrepreneur. You have to actually have given some services and people let you know and let the public know, yep, I got something of value from this person.
Well, I appreciate that framework. So for people out there, the visibility, credibility, and profitability. I am pleased to be able to say that I can check the box on the visibility. I've got people saying, Deb, we see you all over the place. And that credibility, I am out there all the time, pretty consistent. And now wondering, maybe I need to narrow it down. It's that profitability for which then I say, okay, I think I'm doing all the right things, but are there some missing pieces or things that I need to learn and understand and to be able to apply? And I think that's where then your system comes in place to kind of close the gap on that third piece.
Yeah, yeah. And hey, Deb, you've got credibility. You've published the book, the CEO's Compass. I believe it just came out as an audiobook. Am I right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so credibility, you've got this podcast with how many hundreds of episodes? I
Yeah.
mean, girlfriend, you've got credibility. So it's just a matter now of time to get to the profitability, which is what, of course, you want, and we all aspire to that. We want it instantly, but it is something that takes time. And once it's kind of like a water pump. I was a kid, and I don't know, I went to wherever the farm was, and they showed us that you could pump and pump and pump and no water came out. And then if you kept at it, and remember, being consistent and persistent is part of credibility, the water would start to come. And then even if you weren't pushing the handle, the water kept coming. But guess what? By not pushing the handle, the water eventually dries up. So here's the thing that most entrepreneurs hate. They dislike the idea that they have to do the marketing and selling consistently. You can't, it's not one and done. You can't just build the relationship today and think it's going to help you tomorrow. It's like yesterday's shower doesn't keep you clean today. Okay. So you have to keep at it. And for many of us, especially those of us who don't really like the marketing and sales process as a solopreneur, even as a small business owner, you might want to delegate it to someone. Well, guess what? It is an ongoing process. You can't let up on the handle of the water pump.
Yeah, I mean, ongoing relationship building, networking is something that even CEOs and C-suite leaders should continue to do. Because the worst thing that could happen from a business perspective is when you have an issue and you don't have the resources within, you need to have that external network of resources where you've built relationships that you could tap in immediately. And those that don't have that, and I will admit, I didn't have a big external network. It has become invaluable to me. And again, not necessarily in a transactional way, but how am I able to help and serve others? Because again, at the end of the day, through providing value, we want to be memorable and top of mind to be able to provide maybe some direct value at some point in the future.
And it's lonely at the top as a
Oh, yeah.
CEO because you really, although you have a board, remember the board is kind of, breathing on your back here, to bring the profits up and to make quarter X, better than the previous one. It's lonely. Who can you talk to? Well, another CEO. Yeah, no, it depends. Are they tight-lipped or are they going to share your confidence? So these are some of the dilemmas that the CEO faces, which is why having a drop-in CEO, someone who has been there, done that, and can keep the lips zipped, becomes important because you, Deb, can offer that CEO who's struggling, even the new one who's just decided to enter the entrepreneur business, consulting business. You've been there, you've done that, you can give them good advice. So yes, networking, building that network is invaluable.
And you simply validate that. And I trust and believe the process. But I think what you have really now can offer entrepreneurs and those who want to evolve their sales process is I'd love for you to share a bit more about your likability sales system, because I think that's the key and the difference that differentiates you.
It is because I am not, as you've probably figured out, listener, and Deb, this is so. I am not about the transaction. I'm not about making the sale per se. I am buyer centric. In other words, who is that person that we're speaking with? And can we speak that language so that the other individual says to themselves, wow, you get me, we're alike. Hence, that's why I've named my system AlikeAbility. It's not popularity. It's about making that feeling, the thought within the other person of, oh, wow, you get me. I can relax. Now I can trust you. And the sales resistance will drop away. And now that opens the door to our having a relationship and doing business together. So, in a nutshell, that's what a likability is. 5 steps. Step one is to identify that there are 4 distinct personality styles. I call them buying styles or buyers because, of course, I'm focused on the selling aspect, hence, what's the buyer's personality? But there are 4 distinct ones. And by the way, Deb, this is not unique to me. There are 200 such systems in the universe, colors and animals and words and all sorts of things. I happen to use numbers. I'm unique for that. Why? Because the numbers, after 35 years of research, represent how many touch points a buyer needs before he or she can make up their mind. Touch points like a face-to-face conversation, whether in a video format or in person, a telephone call, an exchange of emails, text messaging, and guess what? Seeing your posts, listening to your podcast. These are touch points, but not in real time because there's not a back and forth exchange going on. So that's step one, is identifying the 4 styles. Step two, what's my style? We are a combination of all 4, but just in a different amount and different order. And so why is it important to know your style? Because we tend to project our style onto the buyer. We assume that the buyer is thinking and deciding the way we think and decide. But remember, there are 4 styles. So only 25% of the time is my style going to match yours. And maybe even less because remember, we're a combination, different amounts, whatever. And so that means 75% of the time we're mismatched. No wonder why it takes a lot of no's before you get a yes in sales.
But this
So that
changes everything. Yeah.
it does, it does. So numbers, I label them with numbers. And the third step for the likability system is diagnosing the other person's style. We can do it in less than a minute. It's something I teach by looking at how people dress or talk or behave, post, even the backgrounds tell you about that person.
Yeah.
And finally, the last, no, that step four then is once we know what their style is, now we shift what we say to match their style. Now it's not monkey see, monkey do. This is not behavioral. This is language. This is words we use that connect authentically with the person's style, their values. And so by using the right value words, that's when the other person says, wow, you get me, we're alike. And then step five is let's get rid of what doesn't match, right? Because my style isn't 100% yours. So let me downplay or discard what isn't matching so that we stay in rapport. So those are the five steps of a likability.
So, case study. This was absolutely phenomenal for me to understand. And again, as you said, it's not rocket science, but sometimes we just need a little bit of clarity to understand that one, we do have different buying styles. We like to be treated a certain way, hence they do as well. So, your way of providing value or trying to sell may not be the way that they want to receive. And I will tell you firsthand, there are some people in my ecosystem that I know value what I offer, but I haven't converted yet. But I am patient because I realize based on how they are as a buyer, I have a number eight, a little bit of a number two, a number eight that needs a lot of touch points, might need to be managed. And I will tell you in a previous life, I might have written them off if they didn't reply to me after two or three times. Okay, they don't care, they're ghosting me. Well, that's a victim mentality. I needed to learn that they need for me to stay in touch with them, check in, provide information, be helpful without asking anything in return. And I am finding that sixth and seven and eighth touch point, they're saying, I really appreciate you. Thank you. I'm sorry I've been out of touch. This is what's going on. Let's book a call. Let's talk. Let's catch up. It works. It absolutely works.
It does. You're reminding me of a situation with another client of mine who was, by the way, the numbers again refer to touch points, and they're 2, 4, 6, and 8 are the four styles. So she's a strong number two, meaning if you don't make the sale today, she doesn't want anything to do with you. And after learning about my system, she decided that she would just reach out one more time to some people that she had a good feeling about, but they didn't close on the first try. Guess what? She made two $10,000 sales that week just by that extra touch point, because not everybody operates on your time frame.
No, I totally get that. And I appreciate that. And when I try to summarize the value that you bring, again, I highly support your approach. And again, it can be frustrating when an entrepreneur business owner knows their value. They've been validated, they've maybe had a few clients, but they can't get to a sustainable level to be viable. I definitely suggest you rethink your approach. And, I just want to say, Nancy, you have been amazing in taking the time not only to teach me the buying styles, but I think the work that you do is also value is the mindset of trying to provide value, because even when I position myself in front of somebody, um, you have to be able to have the right mindset. This is somebody that I can provide value to. I care about the person. I know what my value is. And given time, place, or situation, they will recognize it and I will be able to provide. A lot of what you do is not just teaching me the different buying styles, but also having the right mindset and language, like you said, to be able to communicate in such a way and leverage the insight that you have.
Yeah, thank you for that because mindset, of course, is important. Confidence sells. And when you're unfamiliar. There you are. You were the CEO, you were the head, you got all the accolades, right? And now you're a consultant and you're on your own and there are no accolades happening, and your spouse or partner is wondering what the heck is going on, and you're not bringing in the money like you used to. I mean, these are all things that can pull you down. And again, you need to take a look at stuff besides, it's not just education about how people buy, but also taking a look at, building your confidence, building your sense of presence, knowing again your worth, raising your fees,
Yeah.
being able to claim your pricing with authority and not to back off, and to recognize when to give and when to charge.
And I so appreciate what you do, what you say, how you coach and mentor. And I just want others out there, if you're listening and may find value in Nancy's insights, I would encourage you to reach out to her. But I also, again, this is a community here. If you know somebody that might be struggling, that are having challenges, they've got great value, great gifts, but cannot necessarily convert that, definitely, again, refer this podcast to that person and suggest that they meet with Nancy, because I certainly value what you say, how you do it, you've been very kind, but also the value that you will provide to others. So I would love to give you the mic one last time to share any last thoughts for our listeners.
So let's see, what can I say that I haven't said before? Um, it's hard being an entrepreneur. I'm sure you've seen the statistics about how many survive year one versus year two versus up to year five and so forth. Um, Based on your own personality style, you may be beating yourself up needlessly because you're not getting the success that you are used to in your previous positions. And again, this is where maybe getting some outside support, whether it's that drop in CEO or maybe it's the sales whisperer, I don't know, but this could help you keep steady on your feet, claim your value, know your worth, and proceed with confidence. Because that is down the road, these things do take time. And most of us are in a hurry, regardless of whether we're that number two person who wants things done immediately, or whether we're down the road, and take longer time. You got to be patient with yourself. These things do take time, but once, like that water pump, that you start the water going, keep the pump active because it will continue to flow. And the best is yet to come.
Thank you for that. Inspiring, not just influential, Nancy. I just want to thank you for being an amazing guest. Thank you for dropping it on the show. And I want to wish you well and continue success.
Thank you.